they're in SaaS, they're selling SaaS, and then they're losing the interest of the prospect. So what is a way that you would reframe that conversation?
Why did you grab those?
You handed it to me.
So, senses.
Could you explain how you persevered through some setbacks in life?
I'm a Buddhist. I was 13 and losing my father to cancer. Then I took Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins, and they don't call it Buddhism, but they call it positive mental attitude. Zig Ziglar said how to get rid of stinking thinking.
Right.
You had to check up from the neck up.
Welcome back to the Candid Thoughts Podcast, folks. This is your host, Isabella Pasquale. I'm with my friend, Hal Yaffe, a.k.a. Mr. Pitchman right here. Hal and I have been friends for several years. We met through social media and finally meet in person.
Yeah.
And nowadays with different communities online, you can connect with people of different, similar groups. So Hal, he's a storied sales trainer who's been in business for over 20 years.
Actually, if you figure out, I started selling when I was 12 years old.
Right.
And I'm 60, almost 62.
Right.
I've had 40 years, 50 years of figuring out how to be persuasive. But when you get out of college and you go do some actual training courses, 30-some years in the real world.
We have all this barbecue here. Let's dig in.
I'm gonna. You picked a great place for lunch, let me tell you.
Right. Yeah. So, folks, today we're at Sauced BBQ and Spirits. So, what were your first experiences with sales?
Well, when I was 13, my dad was dying of cancer. And there's a little place close to our house where I could ride my bike to. And they had a call center and they were selling AAA memberships over the phone. And somehow I convinced them using my brother's birth certificate that it was old enough to get a job. And I got a job. And if anyone's ever done telemarketing, now you just pick up the phone and it's a dialer and they put somebody to you. I am so old. Check this out. They would give you a piece of paper that said the first three numbers, 419, and the second three numbers, 418, and then 0000, 0001, 0002, and you called every number to 9999.
And this is back in the rotary time, guys.
What happened, though, is we were getting around unlisted numbers. They were like, how did you get my number? We were just guessing at phone numbers, but everybody needed the AAA. Now, remember, I'm 13, 14 years old. They think I'm 15 and 16. I didn't know what a yes or no question was. They taught me to ask questions in a way they got the answer back. And here I'm so young, I was eager and willing to learn. I ended up being their top sales rep. And so now I go to, hey, this is fun, dude. I'm actually making money and they're appreciating me. And that all ended and we moved to another job and life moved, and then an interview for another career. On the resume, they said, wait, you've had sales training. I'm like, yes. And then it turned out, long story short, I ended up becoming their corporate sales trainer of a Fortune 500 university and being sent to schools to be trained from Zig Ziglar and Dale Carnegie and Tom Hopkins and Dave Yoho and Ben Gay. So I've absorbed all of their training and then amalgamated it and manufactured it into some new tools that your audience can use and the people I've trained over the years, the physics is still the same from 100, 200, and 300 years ago. Science is still the same, but the times have changed. You couldn't pull a phone out 20 years ago and Google right in front of somebody. So persuasion and sales are the same. Technology has what has been the difference in the last 20 years to answer one of the questions.
Yeah, so the triggers still remain the same.
Yeah, the physics of persuasion.
Right. So what's your system to persuading a complete stranger?
You have to do AIDA, which is attention, interest, desire, and action. So if they walk by you and they don't have your attention, you couldn't do it. How many times have you been in a trade show and you walked up and down the aisles and maybe you walked to the bathroom and one day you're like, hey, I never saw that booth, but it's been there the whole time and you walk past it. Shame on the agent for never getting your attention. Now, sometimes it's not for you. If you're not going to buy a swimming pool, you ignore the swimming pool people. If you're not going to buy a John Deere tractor, you ignore the John Deere tractor. So what we're trying to do is, like a gold mine, we want to put all the dirt into the sluice and shake it and look for what we're getting. So there's millions of people walking by, and some people have no interest in what we're doing. So now the next step is, now that we found the raw chunks who have a little bit of interest and desire in what we have, now we have to move to the next step of the demonstration, presentation, persuasion, and sales cycle.
How do you know when a pitch is failing in Connecta?
So you can tell with physical, their feet are pointed the other way. They're taking steps backwards. They're not looking at you. They're staring at their phone. They're looking at the booths. If you don't have their attention, the pitch is somewhat irrelevant. So that's one step. The second is, when people are asking questions, I want you to picture having a palette with paint, and you paint all of the questions that I'll call buy signs in bright green. When I get this home, where do I plug it in? If I get 2 of these, how do I store it during the winter? Well, what's your service warranty? Those are all ownership questions. Now, paint those questions red when they say things like, do you have a card? Do you have a brochure? Are you online? Will you be here tomorrow? Are you here next week? They're not trying to ask you questions with the product. They're telling you why they're not going to get it now. And then a one-call close. Hey, you see it, you touch it, you feel it, you fondle it, you fall in love with it, you're going to get it right now. We don't end up with, I'll think about it, I'll come back, I want to talk to my spouse, I'm here all week, I'm going to go take a walk, I have to pray on it. So the ultimate is, once they leave your booth, there's 500 acres that they're going to go explore and forget you. So you have to get them while they're with you.
What's the disparity when you're dealing with Gen Z versus a baby boom?
The product you're selling still has to entice them. So I have a program I call selling bags of shit. And if I'm selling a bag of shit and you don't want it, it doesn't matter how I describe it. But then I'm going to give you a second bag of shit free, and you still don't want it. So it doesn't matter, you're getting more free.
Right.
Then just now I'm going to lower the price and give you another bag. So you're going to get 3 bags of shit cheaper than 2 bags of shit. There's no reason you wouldn't want this shit, right? If what you're selling doesn't resonate, you have no magic words. Now, in the opposite, if I have something you really want and you want it and nobody else has it and I want it, or you want it and I got it, we're going to get it. So we have to focus in on what we have that's unique and different, and that value proposition of the fear of missing out. If you don't get it now, you're probably not going to get it. You came here to see new and unique things, and you've never seen this before. So if you had this in your life, what would it do for you? Oh, wow, that's great. How would that affect you? So based on what you said, it just makes sense that you get it, doesn't it? That's how we do it.
Right. Let's get into your background. So you came from Toledo, Ohio. You built you did your sales training, and then you moved to the Gulf Shores in Alabama.
Actually, I moved to Chicago next.
Chicago.
Mm-hmm. I was at a trade show representing some people, and somebody came up and said they had heard good things about my sales training sessions and what would it take for me to come to work for them?
Right.
And we did some negotiations, and there was a big, what I call a comma zero. The comma moved and another zero got added, and we did the comma zero and a trip to Chicago. And that worked out really, really well until 1999 and then 2001. When 2001 happened, things shifted. Much like when COVID happened, things shifted. So survivors in life, our elder generation went through the Great Depression and they went through the war, big generational shifts. We met during COVID, a generational shift. And so now your audience is going to have to deal with this next generational shift of 2025 and what do they do for the next 50 years of their lives. And that's what we've been focusing in on, a lot of learning what we did over the last 50 years, the last 100, 200 years, and amalgamating that into something that we can use for the next 50 years going forward. Plant the seed now, fertilize it now. You may not even see any fruit for a little bit, but if you didn't plant that mango tree 7 years prior, you would have never harvested the mango fruit.
Right. You just have to start.
Yep.
Ever wanted to make a billion new friends? Here you go. B&F Kombucha is the smoothest kombucha on the market. Founded in 2015, their mission is to produce the highest quality kombucha in Jun and make a billion new friends along the way. Available now in Alaska, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Oregon, Washington, California, and more states to follow. Go to bnfkombucha.com to learn more. So a lot of people that are entering sales, they are analysis paralysis. There's so many different options. So they're trying to find the right sales trainer. So what are the best resources for somebody who's young, who's looking to get into sales?
That's a better question. And much like what I just did, getting a better question is one of the ways to better communicate, because it gives you a few extra seconds to think about what was asked.
Right.
There's no law that says you have to answer a question just because somebody asks it. And so in the art of persuasion, finding out why did you say what you said, and not as much with you right there, but if somebody gives in sales an objection, isn't always a no. It's a question. So it's when somebody's asking an objection, why did they say it? What makes you say that? What gives rise to that opinion? That's an interesting observation. Share a little more about that. And the more they give you about why they have that fear they're holding on to, like a bomb tech, the more you're able to diffuse that bomb. And after a while, you've seen the different types of bombs. So you know that one needs this, that one needs this, and this one needs this. So by asking the right questions up front in a sales presentation, you learn a lot more about at the end when it comes time to get the money. And I'll give you a visual. You've seen a bike lock where you have 4 tumblers, and you have to open all 4 tumblers to slide the bike lock. Well, any one of those 4 tumblers not open, the lock won't open.
Right.
So you have to get all 4 of those, like trust, respect, and appreciation and empathy when you're dealing with somebody. Otherwise, you're selling them bags of shit.
You're a contractor for these different companies. So how does somebody get to your position where you're a contractor for a state fair?
Humbly, it's very, very hard. Because they want you to be their team employee and work just for them. But there's only one thing that you, me, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Donald Trump, and Joe Biden all have in common. And the one thing that all of us have in common is 24 hours to a day. Rich or poor, fat, ugly, purple, or polka dotted, you only get 7 days in a week. So how do you want to use them? And I control my time. So if you look at a calendar, and if you're working the fair circuit or the event circuit, you know there's a certain show in January or February or March, and next year that show will be in January or February or March. Every August is the State Fair of Wisconsin. So I'll go back to the State Fair of Wisconsin. Training a team to bring with you, either they just hire you and they put you in the booth and they have a very good training program with a couple pats on the back and go, good luck, kid. You got this. And there's not a whole lot of industry support. which is a soapbox that I've been standing on and fighting, trying to create materials that help young reps succeed instead of just survive, but thrive. And I'll take it upon myself because nobody gave me those tools, so I had to manufacture them.
Right.
If they didn't give you sales aids, I made them, even before the internet. Well, maybe not before the internet, before the mass adoption of the internet and the AI.
Right.
Even in the old days when we were making PowerPoint sales presentations, if you don't make it and you give a message and the message wasn't received, it was your fault for being the deliverer of the message that they didn't understand it. You talked, nobody listened, they left and didn't learn anything. Well, in a sales presentation, it's very much the same. You can do a lot of talking at the end. They go, okay, thanks, and they walk away. All you were was a demonstrator. So we've talked a lot about sales. And demonstrating isn't sales. And even being a pitchman, at the end, you got up there and you showed them and you said, but wait, there's more. And at the end, if nobody hands you the money, you were just a showman. So we focus, and people on my team, on the art of consummating the transaction, doing it now. And there's a great story of that. We were just at the Fort Worth Stock Show, and a woman came by who had security with her. Big family, billionaire family. And she walked up and she goes, how much? Well, we were talking about questions. I could have just said X dollars. But getting a better question, I said, well, how many do you need? And she got a better question. She goes, how many do you have? And I said, well, I got 12 left. And she goes, I'll take them, because we were closing. I said, okay. And she goes, we'll be back. I said, no. To consummate this transaction right now, you get those 12 units. Or when you come back, we'll talk about the 3 or 4 that are remaining. It's the last day. She turned around, snapped her fingers, had her man give me a credit card, and wrote up a $6,000 order because I had the guts to say, no, don't walk away, do it now. And it worked. And you can learn from that. And I'll wrap it up this way, Isabella. There's a sale made in every conversation. And even if you're at the front desk of a hotel, or you're trying to get a seat, or you're trying to move somewhere in line, you're selling them or they're selling you. And if you make it a persuasive, it's in your best interest, you make the choice because it's better for you. That's not me telling you. That's you saying, hey, I think I ought to do this. So as we go through life, learning how to ask better questions, persuade people, and I'll wrap it up with this. Do you remember the Who's Tommy pinball wizard? Well, I'm old.
That's before my time.
And I remember the pinball machine. And when you play the pinball machine, you could move it a little bit. And if you move it too far, it would tilt and you'd lose your game.
Right.
Life is a pinball machine. And you have to tip it a little bit. You have to bump it. You can't just let it bump you.
Right.
You are in control. And you have to have those crazy flipper fingers to make that pinball machine of life work in your advantage.
Right. So let's say there's an SDR who they're in SaaS, they're selling SaaS, and then they're losing the interest of the prospect. So what is a way that you would reframe that conversation?
Why did you grab those?
You handed it to me.
So senses.
Okay.
You have to see it, touch it, feel it, smell it, taste it. I will have signs. I will use smells. I will have visuals. I will have things that move. And when you see them crossing their hands, when you see them bringing out their phone, you hand them a piece of your product. You bring them back in. Well, now, if they're not interested, they're not interested. But what your question was, what do you do when you see them losing interest? The definition of boring is when someone else is talking when you wish you were. If you're sitting there listening, biting your tongue, saying, I want to say something, eventually they're going to be boring. Now, this is a conversation between you and me, but in a normal conversation out there, a sales presentation is the guy doing all the selling, and at the end, he just wants to say, give me money, and they'll go, I'll take it. In reality, it's not. here's the presentation, features and benefits, give me money, I'll take it. It's, I'll think about it, I'll be back. I don't want to carry it around. We're not ready. We have to do our research. We're going to go do some internet. We didn't come here for that. And in everything you do in almost all of life, even when you ask somebody to do something for you, they give you some type of an objection.
Right.
So the whole next step is, are you done? Do you acquiesce and say, okay, goodbye? Or do you, I hear you, and that makes sense. And literally, based on what you just said, if there was a way we could do this, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Wow.
Right. So a lot of my viewers, they're younger and they don't remember a time before the internet. So back in the day, with the advent of the .com period, you got into the domain game, so to speak. And so I've had some friends where they get some domains and then they would farm the domains and then they would flip it. So how does that process work?
Being ahead of the curve was good on that one.
Right.
And here we are in California, and it looks like all the coast real estate has already been scooped up, and you probably will never get a coastal house. It's all done. And if we thought that 100 years ago, every new coastal house built over the last 100 years wouldn't be there, because 100 years ago, all the good land was gone. So maybe the same with the domains. I've had people tell me all the good domains are gone. So we can do a couple things. We're going to dig and find one that become available. Somebody owned one and they didn't register it. They passed away. They just didn't renew it. The credit card receipt was going to an old address and it just became expired. So occasionally you can find them like a diamond miner by surfing for them. Conversations with people. You happen to mention that you have a topic and they go, hey, I have a domain on that I don't use. So now you want to hurry up and grab that domain. And then the people that are searching for it, they're spending time with filters and algorithms, and they're actually searching for domains on topics.
Right.
So if you're in that mode, like a collector's mode, you're going to have your eyes set for things that, like Antiques Roadshow. Oh boy, I know that this one's worth a whole lot. I'm going to do my best to get this at a garage sale price, and that's going to be the domain that I buy. And I think a few of our friends got lucky and stumbled on a couple of good garage sale or thrift domains. They were able to get a good name at a decent price, hold it, and then resell it for a profit. And I've done that, and that's how most of us.
Right.
Some of our friends 20, 30 years ago were handwriting, and they're picking dictionary names, and they bought spare rib and cornbread and chicken pie, and they didn't do anything with them, and they own them. And now we see every week one-word names, four-letter names selling for $1 million, $5 million, $12 million. I'm not sitting on that kind of inventory,
Right.
and I don't know if I could find it. But now we're back to the coast and finding those houses. So somebody wants rib, but they got spare rib. Then they got baby back spare rib. Then they got juicy baby back spare rib. So
Or dino rib.
adding whoosh to it. The purists want the .com. Could I just go with rib.juicy, rib.big? I'd rather have ribbig.com or rib.big.com. So I think when we go to that oceanfront analogy, now they're building condos on top of buildings with these GTLDs and adding these funny endings that aren't .com anymore.
Right.
99% of the domains I've sold are .com. And whenever I tell somebody any domain, even if I tell them I own success.guide, they're going to go to successguide.com. Even though I have success.guide, they're going to go to successguide.com. So that's why I only like it.com.
Okay. Now, is there any viability for like the .xyz or .orgs or .nets?
There are.
Oh.
And I'm not the world's biggest or best domainer. I'm an average domainer. Still, most of the domains I've sold have been .com. And even if you have some .xyz, the .com is still exponentially worth more. So if I was owning a product and I was going to be the best and biggest smoked brisket place like Spirits Barbecue, I would want to own gribs.com. That's just, it's the gold standard.
Right.
Could I get away with ribs.business, it'll never be the oceanfront Malibu property. It'll be a condo off the hill, up the cliff with an obstructed view.
That makes sense. So I want to, since we have you here, I want us to go back in time to the .com era. A lot of people don't understand that they didn't live without Google. So back in the day, you would search through encyclopedias. There would be an encyclopedia salesperson who would come over and sell different volumes.
Right.
And so that's how you guys used to gather some more information back in the day. Also, you come from a time where you actually had to network in person and attend seminars. There weren't these platforms like Omegle, which...
You know the hard part about that? My father, rest in peace, when I used to ask him how to spell a word, his response was Dictionary.
Right.
Go look it up. How do you look up a word you don't know how it's spelled? Now, I'm ADHD and dyslexic, and there's a lot of words where it doesn't spell the way it sounds, and you can't put that in a dictionary and find the word.
Right.
Now, it's got an auto-suggesting. You've typed in the first 3 letters, and it knows what word you want. So I'm too young to say the kids today don't know how hard it was back then. But to answer your question exactly, years ago, there was a statement that was said, "Step aside, old man." You remember what "step aside, old man" was?
No.
What it was is 100 years ago when people got cars, they're driving their cars. And the people from the generation before them were driving their cart and buggy. They hadn't upgraded from the cart and buggy to a horse yet. And these people in the cars are screaming, "Step aside, old man. Make way for those of us who have moved on with technology. We have an automobile." Now, what were the cars like 100 years ago? What were the cars like 50 years ago? 25 years ago? What did a Tesla look like 25 years ago? There's no Tesla 25 years ago. But earlier we talked about what are we going to do 25 years from now and 50 years from now. Our cell phones are only 20 years old, and we're having a conversation about people who didn't even grow up without never having a cell phone. So that gets me excited about the future. Our great-grandparents all emigrated to America under the Statue of Liberty, and America is the land of immigrants, and God bless all of my Eastern European, Russian, and Bulgarian, and Lithuanian, Romanian.
Who came through Ellis Island?
All of us came through Ellis Island. Yep. They had no clue what the internet was going to be. So here we are. What do we do for the next 50 years?
Well, one thing we share is that we sought an opportunity and we stepped and took initiative. What's changed in over the past 20 years in your experience from sales? I mean, there's obviously been an over-reliance on technology now, but the fundamentals stay the same. When you're interacting with somebody, you have to hook their attention, and then you establish authority, and then you qualify that, and then you close the deal.
I can sum it up in one word. Amazon. We used to have exclusive products. And to give you an example, if somebody fell in love with BNF kombucha, they can't go and get it from anybody who's not a distributor of BNF kombucha. It's a controlled distribution market. Well, if I just want a rib, I can find a rib a lot of places. So what they were able to do with the internet is look at commodities. I want a drink. Then eventually maybe I want a kombucha. But when they get down there and they look at the story and how it's written and the ingredients, and now they want something to support their friends in Oregon, you can't go outside and find something that's different if you know exactly what it is you want. So the internet ruined the industry for competitors and lookalikes, and it made it to the point where we must explain our differences and our unique selling points. And that's the very reason why what we have is not available on the Amazon.
So would you say that novelty factor has died?
People now are getting more consumer savvy. And there's a lot of TV shows will tell you, don't be impulsive, and Google and do your research, and don't just spend money. So if you have a good distribution product, and I'm blessed, some of the products we distribute, we manufacture, they serve a purpose, they're highly respected, they're well made, and we're solving needs with people. If you don't want to be too hot, we have a machine that makes you cold. And we have a different one. If you don't want to be cold, we have a machine that makes you hot.
So would you say urgency is essential for closing every sale?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you have to have these constraints to guide your prospect through the sales cycle.
So I'm going to share a story with you because, I just got off of a boat, a Carnival cruise ship.
Right.
And my first Carnival cruise ship was in 1991. We're going to talk about dating yourself. And there was a cruise director. His name was John Heel. And now John is the brand ambassador for Carnival, the face of Carnival. At the time, it was just a lonely cruise director. And as we're doing the cruise, my cruise mate ended up on the stage for the great big crowd interaction. And they did some icebreaker gimmick, and there was some comic material. And you weren't there, but the crowd work, the one of a kind, you just had to be there. You couldn't duplicate it. Have you heard things like that? Okay, so now we finished the cruise. We're so old, there's videotapes everywhere. They're videotaping you on VHS. They videotape you waving goodbye to your money on the shore. And we get home, we order the tape for our cruise. We wait a couple of weeks, and the tape shows up. And we're all excited to watch this. So we pop it in the VCR, and the cruise comes on, and there's our cruise director, and there's people, and everything looks the same. And it comes to the scene on the stage, and it wasn't us. The same jokes that we thought were spontaneous were being delivered to a different fat man, a different young man, a different tall guy. And the point of what we thought was so fresh and original and one of a kind, they do week after week after week with a different crowd. But they make it seem like it's the first time they've ever done it. So your viewing was the first time they ever did it. And that's what we do at our show. I've learned that lesson, that this is the first time they've ever seen it. And if we don't give them that, they're just going to say, okay, walk away and think about it. We didn't move them because we were tired, because we've done it 4,800 times, because they're not special. So the thing that makes these young people really gifted is they do it every single time like it's their first time. And that matters.
So what's the importance of tonality in a conversation?
Much like you're a consumer, would you want to listen to somebody who's monotone?
No.
Neither do they. So people don't want to be sold. People want to buy. If I tell you, you're told. But if you decide, you're sold. So whether it's on TV, on radio, or live just with conversations, all those senses, see it, touch it, feel it, smell it, hear it, taste it, tonality is definitely one that can make a difference in a live presentation.
So you know the ecology of trade shows. Now, a lot of people that have ideas, they would register a patent pending to get the shows. What's the step-by-step process for somebody who wants to be an inventor and get in that industry?
And I appreciate that question too. And a lot of products live their whole life cycle just being patent pending. They never even go beyond that. Once you've got your provisional and you've got it protected, test it at a very, very small flea market. Very small. And have a booth that costs you $50 on the weekend. And you're looking at, do you have to explain people what it does or what the benefit is? Or is it so revolutionary by looking at it or reading your sign, they already want it? Does nobody come up to your table, booth, or stand? Or do you have to pull them in? What does your signage say to bring them in? So testing, whether it's a A/B test, testing it with this information here and that information here and seeing which one is better. But before you go buy a warehouse of it and you have pallets and truckloads and distribution, and you don't know if it's going to work. Remember, the stores that are liquidation stores, they're filled with products that nobody expected to liquidate. Those were all made expecting to sell at full price, and those things just never sold, so they had to get pennies on the dollar. So lesson 1, start small, test batch, tweak, don't commit to large orders before you know it's going to work.
Right. Yeah, I've noticed there's a number of celebrity brands where they may be huge on social media. They may have 27 million followers or whatnot. Lionel Messi, he has an energy product called M-A-S, MAS. And I saw it on, I know certain companies, they have promotions for their products. But at CVS, you can pick up that MAS product for 99 cents. And I'm sure they're just moving volume right now. But a mistake a lot of salespeople make is that they sell on price, not value-based selling. Can you explain the difference?
I want to back up to what you just said about if you saw a product in a store shelves, they're already past that hurdle of adoption. So a lot of your people, nobody's ever heard of their product. They sell a product now, I think even at the dollar store, called LA's Best. And it's a spray cleaner. Well, that's a pitch item. And decades ago, it was sold at pitch stores, and it had never been in retail. And they're selling the bottles for $20 or 2 for $30 or whatever the show special was. And it's the same product. Then they got bigger and better. And then they hit that adoption where, oh, I don't even need the demo. I'll take 2 more bottles. That stuff works. Then the companies go, that works. I'll take a pallet and put it in my store. And then they start saying warehouse volume and distribution. So most of us have never seen that mass acceptance to where it's just distribute. Something you mentioned earlier, you mentioned Shamwow. Now, American trade shows, much like American TV, Shark Tank was a copy of Dragon's Den, which was a BBC show. A lot of our American TV shows are taken from our English neighbors.
Right.
The pitch industry is from England. And so there's a show called The Ideal Home Show. And it's a 28-day show, or that's the whole month of February, 12 hours a day. These people stand there and sell their gimmicks and gadgets and gizmos. And I happened to go to that show in 1990-something, and I was not a pitchman yet. And so I'm walking because I was a speaker at a trade show, and I see the guy demonstrating the sticky lint roller to get the residue off, and I bought one. And the guy's selling a 2,000-year-old pen, never needs a refill. I bought one. And somebody was selling the super chamois, the cloth that when you get it wet, it mops up soda, coffee, water, iced tea, lemonade, pomegranate juice, wine sponge, grape juice, chocolate milk, and Kool-Aid. But it wasn't called the Shamwow, and I bought it in England. And decades later, that same product got a better marketing angle, and then it got mass-produced, and now everybody just calls it the Shamwow. And that's an example of a product that's new or new to you. It's been out there, but it's new to you.
So let's say you get the widget company off the ground. So you hire some employees and you work on scaling. As a leader yourself with managing sales teams, how do you maintain a positive company culture?
That's probably one of the biggest challenges, is to find people that are self-motivated because you're not there for them. So the Minnesota State Fair is the largest fair in the USA. I was blessed to run a booth there that had 40 employees. And by the way, out of 1,000 booths, our booth got Booth of the Year. We received the award. So the answer is we did something right. And it's almost gamification. I shouldn't have to reward you for getting to work on time, but I'm going to. And I shouldn't have to reward you for staying all day, but I'm going to. And if you do a little bit extra than you needed, you're going to get a little extra. And you know what? If you come tomorrow and you're on time and you stay all day and you do that the whole week, you're going to get a week's bonus. But our fair is 2 weeks. And so now you got to do all of that one more time. Well, as we know, people crash and burn. There are fakes and flakes. There are people who call up the third day and say, I can't come today. I've got to take my neighbor's cat to go get a massage. And they would lose their bonus. a forfeiture. So the way that we've set up recently is it's in your best interest to not only come, work your hardest, and work every day of your shift, but we're going to give you a bonus to complete your shift. So I'm believing younger employees are incentivized. And you want to go back, there's intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. If I say you're going to win a set of golf clubs and they're for left-handed people, you're right-handed and don't play golf, my prize isn't going to motivate you. So in the newer life, the reversion of motivating people, I like to let them pick their own prize, because then they're working for something that they want. And if they come every day and they complete their task and they exceed their goals, they're going to earn what it is they said they wanted. And to answer your question, and by the way, I really like your podcast style because your questions are good. The people listening are going to get answers that I hopefully are tangible and actionable, but you think like the mind of these people. So good job for your audience. Thank you. So kids, don't give up, but it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a career to become an overnight success.
Right. Well, a lot of people, they deal with setbacks and whatnot. Could you explain how you persevered through some setbacks in life, how you reframed your circumstances?
Yeah, it's a champion story. And I will proudly share I'm a Buddhist. And when I told you I was 13 and losing my father to cancer, I went to the library and got a cassette tape. And that's how old I am. I don't even think they had CDs. I know they didn't have CDs. But the book was entitled, Listen to This and All Your Fears and Worries Will Go Away. And it was a chant, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And I didn't fully understand what Buddhism or a Buddhist chant was, but I was a 14-year-old trying to live my way through life. And I listened to that and put all that away and didn't think much about it. Then I took Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins, and they don't call it Buddhism, but they call it positive mental attitude and the law of attraction, and don't attract negative things, repel those thoughts. And Zig Ziglar said how to get rid of stinking thinking.
Right.
You got to check up from the neck up. I call it potty training the brain. I love to go where Bob Marley will say, emancipate yourself from mental slavery because only yourself can free your mind. So as a young kid, I could have lived my life of, oh, woe was me, daddy died. Oh, woe was me, my mom died. Oh, woe was me, I'm an orphan. Nobody was giving me anything, so I had to persevere. Made a lot of bad choices, but also made a lot of really, really good choices. And we're back to the actions today are directly the result of the activities you're going to get later on.
Right.
And if you do the bad stuff now, those bad things are going to come later. And karma is real.
Right. So from my experiences, I mean, I've had a lot of setbacks, which I've detailed on the podcast. I mean, I've experimented with different things. I'm kind of ADHD myself. And admittedly, I didn't have a lot of structure, starting out. And I pivoted according to market conditions. So I went to school for something, and then the market shifted. There was, globalization and an outsourcing. And when, for someone like myself, I mean, I did have some corporate jobs over the years. Companies get sold, which is natural. It happens. And then you're thrust into, freelancing and, entrepreneurship. And so a lot of people, especially young people right now with the economy, they feel defeated. They feel defeatist right now. It's like, woe is me. There's too much competition. There's hyper competition, and everything has been played out. So how can I differentiate myself? And the way I see things is that I project myself in the future, and I'm forward thinking. I want a certain thing, so I will plant the seeds, as you alluded to, and I'll work towards that every day. I'll make some improvements. Now, I read a book called Self-Mastery of Conscious Autosuggestion by Emile Coué, who is a French psychologist, and he wrote this 100 years ago. And so I was practicing this mantra every day in every way. I'm getting better and better. Mm-hmm. And, Hal had mentioned he was orphaned at a young age. A lot of people, they go through hardships. But if we fester in that negativity, we just stay down. So if we want to change, we have to take steps to move forward. Yeah, and sometimes it means physically relocating out of an environment and maybe finding some friends. I'm sure when you lost your parents, you had some bad influence friends, and so you sought different resources, or maybe you were religious back in the day.
Yeah, you are some of who you hang around with. And if you hang around with turkeys, you're a turkey. And if you hang around with eagles, you're eagles. If you're the smartest one in the room, get to a smarter room so that you're not the smartest one in the room.
Right.
The young kids today, though, not wallowing because the future's so bright. You have so many opportunities that weren't there before. If you're not capturing the changes in AI, don't let them tell you AI is going to put you out of a job, because we just talked about step aside, old man. Cars didn't put people out of jobs. It created whole new careers that weren't there before the car industry. There's another similar concept of old AM radios had little small, what they called a handheld solid state. They used transistors. Well, before they had transistor radios, they had tubes. So our old grandparents have these great big giant Marconi tube radios. Technology shifted and now they're solid state. But if you went to the grocery store or the manufactured dry goods store and the ad said solid state, that meant it was good. After a while, the ads didn't say solid state anymore because you would just assume all radios have it.
It was normalized.
Right now, people are saying with AI, pretty soon it's just going to be AI is going to be in there. You don't have to say we're using AI. It's just going to be part of what you have.
Right.
Hotels used to advertise we have air conditioning, we have color TV, we have HBO. They don't advertise that anymore because that's a given. So now in our technology, what are we going to do in the future? What are you going to look at 50 years from now when we joke we didn't grow up with cell phones, we didn't grow up with flat screen TVs as big as they are all over the walls here in the restaurant? What are they going to grow up with? Still going to be the words and the persuasive. AI doesn't give you words correctly. You have to go back and edit the words AI gives you. And so if you just take what AI gives you as perfect, it's not going to be the master key that opens every lock. It's still going to have a lot of locks closed actually. So learning how to master AI, prompt engineering, but not just taking what it gives you as a surface result as an answer, reading it and understanding where it went wrong and changing the language model so that when you come out and you ask a query, the answer actually is a tighter result based on how you want it to sound like for you. We didn't have that when I was 14.
Right.
But how do I know that now at 61? The same way your audience is going to have things they didn't have 10 years ago, and in 10 and 20 years ago now, they're going to have things and they're going to wonder how we did this with 3 beautiful cameras and lenses, and we've got our great sound and video guy, Madison, making sure the podcast goes off without a hitch. There's going to be AI robots doing this 20 years from now, but they'll still be needing to have a host. They'll still be needing to have a guest, and maybe the food will be 3D printed, but they'll still need a restaurant.
Right.
So the Jetsons are coming, but they're not really here yet.
Well, we have there's some Tesla robots right now.
We do, though.
Yeah, we did. Okay, so I'm sure you're familiar with sex robots. So they're something like, what, $100,000 or have you seen one live?
I haven't.
Okay.
However, when my brother was alive,
right,
he was in the adult industry,
right,
and had been to many AVN, adult video news award shows,
right,
in Vegas, and they're always 5 and 10 years ahead of the trend. So the subject called dildonics, or remote controlled dildos,
right,
where you on your AI can change your settings to have somebody else, probably on a cam, enjoy how you're changing your settings.
Right.
That's real. I mean, that's out there right now.
So, Hal, thanks for sitting down and meeting with me. I know you've been super busy. You just kicked ass at the San Diego Del Mar show, and now you're going to fly back home, and you're going to. Well, what's your plan when you get home?
I'm going to be home for 2.5 weeks with my bride and my 2 dogs.
Yep.
And enjoy the Gulf. And then I go to Wisconsin, and we're going to do the Wisconsin State Fair. We're going to do it all again. And then I'll go home for a few more months and do it all again. Just work a few months out of the year out on the road, and all the rest of the time at home, creating fresh and original content that people like your audience that are looking for something are going to do as they grow up, as they go forward. How do guys like you and I contribute for the next generation? So that's what I've been trying to do is use my skills for good and not evil, help people use their skills to pay the bills. And, you said we got to finally meet in person.
Yep.
And what did we meet over? But a tray of meat. What a great way to finally meet you, buddy.
Right.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thanks for coming, Hal. And we'll see you next time on the Candid Thoughts Podcast.